What's up, everybody? Rothstein here, Betting Public Sports Show. I'm your beloved host, Fame Rothstein, a.k.a. Yves St. Croissant. Today is Friday, January 30th, 2026. Please like and subscribe to the video. Leave comments, share the video, okay? Just remember, tomorrow morning I'll have some sports betting action suggestions for you tomorrow morning, I promise. All right? But I just want to I'm gonna try and get in and out of this really quickly because I was on X last night and I was reading a story. It's over 10 years old, but I didn't know the story at all about Eddie Curry, the former NBA player, got drafted by the Bulls out of high school. Him and Tyson Chandler both got drafted in the first round. I think Curry went first or went earlier than Chandler. I don't necessarily say he was first in the draft. And then he ended up having some health problems. He got he had like a heart issue. And I want to say the Bulls offered him either $450,000 a year to not play basketball, or he can go get money or wherever how he wanted basketball. And he ended up taking the money. He didn't take the $450 a year, is what I'm saying. But the story involving his wife, his ex-wife, and his child, he married a woman, and, I think they had a child, ended up being like 2 or 3 when they split. And just like any other athlete, any rich man, athlete or not, any rich man, or any man, period, in a divorce, he got cracked. You go out there with without a prenuptial, you're going to get cracked. So, she cracked him pretty good, $1 million, some properties, some cars and things like that, $1 million in spousal support and things like that. And apparently Eddie Curry didn't pay it properly through the right channel, and the wife capitalized on it. And when their child turned 18, she went back to court, said he never paid and wasn't paying, and so they gave her another $1 million in child support that he ended up owing. And it was like, wow. And a part of the story, but it's not to what we're going to talk about, but she ended up being killed by the lawyer who represented her in court. And it's like, that was the second time I've heard of something like that. Somebody taking somebody to the cleaners in court, in a divorce court, and then them dating and marrying somebody involved in the case. Bob Johnson, former Charlotte Bobcats owner, first black billionaire in America. His wife, when they split, she ended up dating and marrying the judge. Like, damn, yeah, that's some foul shit for people to be doing. But it shows those women never had really respect for the guy to do something like that. Never had respect for him. But long story short, that just goes to what I want to talk about. Do you think that? Let me put it like this. I'm just gonna tell you like this, straight out. I ain't gonna even walk you into it. God willing, I'll make 50 in July. But one thing I would do if I could do it all over again, I would seriously consider a vasectomy as a young man. I mean, seriously, from 17, 18 years old, I would seriously consider it. Probably would have done it. I'm about 90% sure I would have done it. Because I had when I was younger, I had a young like that. Even then, I had a job with health insurance that would have, taken care of that. But yeah, because you hear too many stories like with Eddie Curry, just, and other athletes and rich men just getting hosed in court. But like I said, if you're a regular man, just a regular 9-to-5 job, you're going to give up some of that money, when it comes to child support and things like that. And getting a vasectomy would definitely stop all the, unwanted children out of wedlock. Most people, let's be honest, you have a child out of wedlock, a lot of times you didn't want it. I mean, you're a good person, so you're going to take care of it and whatnot and all that, do what you're supposed to do, but you wasn't really trying to get pregnant. You're just trying to, enjoy yourself, right? Especially out of wedlock. And especially if you're a young athlete, if you get some money, you're going to have to reach back into a couple generations, grandma, your mom, your parents, grandma and them, and some aunties and uncles and shit, to keep that money within the family. You might want to consider a vasectomy at 17, 18, 19, 20 years old as you're going into college. So you don't, knock somebody off. Knock somebody up, or, in the young, NFL, because like, Stephon Diggs, I hear like Stephon Diggs and Cheetah, my man Tyreek Hill, the wide receiver from Miami. It's like, damn, how do y'all popping off all these kids at once? You know what I'm saying? And there's been stories like that about basketball players over the years. Just Brittany Renner's boyfriend, the guy from I don't even know his name, PJ Washington. We know her because she got off, it was blatant. And that's what I'm saying. They're doing it blatantly and brazenly, coming out, talking shit. If you don't give them that kid, because you got a vasectomy, they just a regular run-of-the-mill groupie. Y'all giving them power. Now they got TV shows about being groupies, but they call it housewives. No, it's hoeing in front of jocks. That's what it should be called. Only a few of those women have ever been married that were on these shows. And most of them, when the show was in its height, most of those women were not wives. Basketball wives, baseball wives, football wives, none of them. And a vasectomy is reversible. You can always go back and get it fixed and have your kids if you want, because most of you, let's be honest, if you're a pro athlete, you're done working at age 35. And that's it. And at 35, that's if you're on a Hall of Fame track. Best of the, one of the best of the, best in the game, and you're a good veteran. You don't cause problems in the locker room. They'll keep you on. You've been dominant for, some years. At 35, most of you will be done. Most of them are done at 30. And so, you still got some decent coin. You've made some good coin. You start your family then, but those checks ain't coming in, so she can't shake you for, $20,000 a month in child support. See, that's what I'm saying. That's how these guys go broke. Apparently, because once those checks stop rolling in, they haven't, funded their life for, from age 30 on. They didn't do that. But yeah, so you're 30 years old, now you can start your family, get you a nice, $1 million house and all that kind of stuff. And, and if she leaves, nobody wants to expect that. But if she does, she's getting a dude who ain't got no money or who ain't got no income. Because, you done put everything in your mama's name, your auntie's name, you're going over there. You drop the rest of the yams at her house and the rest of the grands at her house over your auntie house. You understand? Probably cars and everything. Like, trust me, like it's a whole different ball game. Pardon the pun. That child support system when you don't have income. And they can't hold you like that. So yeah, I just think it should be considered. Not telling nobody what to do with their health. But if you know you're a sure shot Division I NIL level player, probably going to the league of football or basketball or something like that, I would seriously consider it. Have a family talk about it. Mom, dad, have a talk. Now, black folks don't want nobody cutting down there. But it might be one of the best investments for the generational wealth that Junior is going to give us a shot at. We don't need it going out to, whoever, some trifling ass girl or, just some conniving woman who's going to, talk your business, probably have you arrested once or twice or 10 times and, or be talking your business on a TV show, on a podcast, all that kind of shit. No, all the money stays within the bloodline. Just something to consider. That's all. Just something I was thinking about when I woke up this morning. Like I said, I would definitely consider it, and I'm about 90% sure that if I could go back in 30 years ago and do that, I probably would. But you tell me, what do you think? Am I way off base? Don't go messing with science for no reason. Or should a young jock consider it? These questions and more will be answered on the next episode of Soap. Holla.